the kids of Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm John, this is Matt, and this is Dennis, and we're going to be doing another comparison video. Today we're going to be comparing the 2010 remake to the 1984 classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. This first one was directed by Wes Craven, one of the greatest horror directors of all time.
Latest and greatest.
Yep. But before we dive into our reviews of those, if you are a fan of movie reviews, 4K Blu-ray reviews, TV reviews, game reviews, and we're doing some more tech reviews lately, please make sure that you hit that like button, and then while you're over there, hit that subscribe button, because nothing helps us out more.
Who should they tell, John?
Oh yeah, make sure you guys are telling all your friends about us too. But anyway, so in 1984, one of the greatest horror films was ever released. It's actually the movie that got me into horror. It's the first one I ever saw. I definitely saw it at way too young of an age, and that's A Nightmare on Elm Street. And what did you boys think of A Nightmare on Elm Street?
I guess I'll start. I could almost echo... You know what? Have we ever watched this together as kids? Because I remember watching it with my other cousin. Like, that was like the only VHS they had, and I slept over their house all the time. I remember watching this movie 100 times over the summer, every time I would sleep at my cousin's house. And we loved this movie. We ate it up. It's just... I was scared of it at first, but then it's... You know, like, Freddy, it was like a comical thing. Like, there was a lot of comedic elements to these movies. You always got, like, corny one-liners and...
This is God.
Stuff like that. And it's just... I absolutely love the Nightmare on Elm Street. Robin Englund is amazing. He's the perfect... I could not imagine Freddy Krueger played by anybody else. He nailed that role. He is Freddy Krueger. I can't look at Robert Englund and not see Freddy. You know, that's... I think they nailed the casting with that. But this movie is just... It's a big part of my childhood, and I absolutely love this movie. I have to watch it every single year around Halloween, with some of the sequels as well, because they're all amazing. I think Part 3 might be my favorite Nightmare out of them all, but I absolutely love the original. And I'm a big fan of it.
I 100% agree. I think there is a lot of bias toward this one because I love 80s horror. That's where I live. Yeah. Everything that came out then is gold. Whether it was because it was actually a blockbuster hit or it's just so cheesy or corny.
And this is part of the big three. Like, you know, you got Freddy, you got Michael, and you got Jason. Those are the big three with the 80s horror, with the slashers and stuff like that. But,
yeah,
I mean, it's arguable. Like, who's the king? Like, as far as the person himself, Freddy's the best with the one-liners. Jason doesn't talk, Michael doesn't talk, so I mean there's no contest there. Who's the scariest of them all? I mean, I find Michael pretty terrifying, and Jason's just kind of a big goof walking around with a hockey mask. But you know, they're all great 80s slasher movies, and Freddy he might be the king.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. There's a lot of bias towards this one because it's 80s. And in rewatching it again, I watch it a lot, you know, like you said, you know, used to watch it a lot, still do. I'm just surprised when people talk about Nightmare, there's all these little clips they show of, like, the most famous scenes. So many of them are from this one. Mm-hmm. When he cuts his finger off, when he comes from the wall.
Or he's walking down the...
Yeah, with the long arms.
Yeah,
so many things come from this film, the original. And there are a lot of sequels after it, and the remake, which we'll get to, but... I think this one really just nailed it. Everything about it, from the intro to the end, was just fantastic.
What's the one when he's in the TV and goes,
"Fuck the prime time, bitch"?
That's three.
That's three?
I like to think that's when we went from scary Freddy to comedy Freddy. It's actually with that one line.
I mean, there's some comedic elements in the original. You know, he was always got that edgy, corny one-liners, but they did lean way more into it later in the series, which is not a bad thing.
The first one's a genuinely scary movie. I enjoy the first one. It's dark and especially even in the opening. I always forget about the opening when he's actually in the boiler room making the glove. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I always forget about that. And it really works for this film. It's like how gritty and dirty, and looks like it was made on a low budget. You know, like, if you ever seen any making of a lot of the craziest scenes, like the blood coming out of the bed, you know, they just flipped the room over. It was a rotating set. That's the same thing they did with the girl, what's her name, Tina, on the ceiling, you know, when she's rolling around. it looks so brutal. There's stuff that was done in here that you've never seen before.
Is this Johnny Depp's first movie?
Yes, it is.
It is Johnny Depp's first movie. It's
before 21 Jump Street, all that. Like Heather Langenkamp.
Langenkamp or something like that. She plays Nancy.
But she's one of the original Scream Queens. She's actually a good actress in this. Like, you know, that was one big thing between this and the 2010 one that drove me nuts was the acting. Because the acting in this is pretty good. The lady who plays the mother is awesome as a great alcoholic mom. You know, John Saxon was a great, great police chief.
I want to ask Dennis this. Now, I know it's stupid, but do you, for some reason, I don't know why, maybe as a kid I had it in my mind, but do you ever get Roy Schneider vibes from her dad, like the Chief Brody? As the, you make that connection too?
Yeah, he does have that kind of vibe to him. Maybe it's the jacket. He does walk around in like that tan colored jacket and stuff.
And I'm wearing a Jaws shirt too.
Yeah, so I could see that. Definitely see the connection. But I echo everything that you're saying too. That the effects blew my mind because you think it's from the 80s. And that one scene, I think it's Tina when she dies, when she's getting dragged up and all over the ceiling and everything. Yeah. It looks so good.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. But the one thing I did notice for the first time ever in rewatching it for this, in that intro, Tina's dream, when she backs into the corner and Freddy jumps from behind her, he doesn't have a face.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I paused it 3 times to check. He literally jumps her from behind, and his face is just whited out. There's no face on whatever grabs her. So I don't know if they were trying to hide it for a big reveal later.
Was that a green screen? Because I noticed just
No.
It didn't.
It
was just so white.
I didn't notice that. I guess it's probably something that they fixed in post. They probably had Robert Englund or just like somebody on set just grab her. Then they probably had the lighting look at it and be like, "Oh shit, we got his face in there," and they probably had to fix it somehow.
Yeah, I mean the special effects are fantastic. We're not tearing any of that apart. You know, it's in the 80s. It looked amazing. On VHS, it probably looked even better. We would not even notice that.
Yeah.
So we're watching it on high-def TVs, on Blu-ray, so you see the little things. And actually, one thing I noticed is the one scene when Nancy is sleeping and he's coming through the wall. If you look at the edges of the wall, you can kind of see, because it's like a rubber thing that they put on there so he can like put his face through it. So when they cut that and then go to the next scene, you could see back on the edges of the wall where it's a hard wall again. It's sheetrock or whatever they use. You can see it in the corners, and I thought that was pretty funny because I never noticed that before.
Well, in 1984, you got to figure all these effects are practical.
Oh, it's all and they're fantastic. They
really
do a great job. Couldn't do better myself.
I do have to say that's one thing that really lent nicely to this one and why it ranks so high for me, because when we get to the remake, some of the effects that they tried to recreate from the original that they did with CGI are terrible. They look so bad. In this original one, though, all the effects with Freddy, even though some of them, like his long arms might now, haven't aged great, still awesome effect. The wall scene when he comes through looks great, especially compared to the new one. So a lot of it, and like you said in the beginning, Robert Englund, he is Freddy. Everything about him, even in this first one, where he has some one-liners, but he's not super funny, just a couple lines here and there, he balances that great, where he's actually pretty terrifying in a lot of it, but when he delivers those funny lines, you're like, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
So another thing that was really cool was when Freddy's on fire at the end, that is a stuntman that they lit on fire, and he specifically does fire stunts. And the reason why they're on him so long is because apparently he had no problem being lit on fire. Yeah. So he's just running around, going up the stairs, and they're like, "Yeah, we got so much footage." He was just into it, and because having real fire over CGI fire, it looked beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was in, I think I watched, it's in the Movies That Made Us.
Yes.
You watched that, and the guy, I think when he got set on fire, he was supposed to just run around and collapse on the steps.
Yeah.
That was it.
He went all the way up.
Yeah, he climbed all the way up and then threw himself back down and then got up to crawl one more time. And everyone was like, just keep rolling. This is great.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of of practical effects. Because now, then we'll talk about it in a second. They'll just freaking throw some CGI fire on there, and then I'm gonna go, oh look, CGI fire, yay!
Yeah, practical effects really make the movies magical, and at the age of, I guess, around 2009, 2010 is when the second one came out. That's kind of when they were really everything was CGI, and no one knew how to do practical effects anymore. And practical effects are starting to come back a little
I think
bit.
they finally realized that they went too far.
Right, so...
Like, you just went over a cliff and now you made everything CGI, and now it's like, okay, everything looks fake, and you can just tell the actors are acting against bad CGI. So I guess that logically leads us into the CGI mess that is 2010's.
A year after the big remake boom where Rob Zombie did Halloween, Friday the 13th got a remake, they just kept throwing all the horror movies out, and this one came out a year later.
And those are great movies.
Yeah, those two, I think, when we get to them, when we do the remakes,
well, the part 2, Halloween Part 2 is okay. Yeah. I loved Rob Zombie's original Halloween.
Yeah.
And
I like it. I don't love
think
it like
the
you
Friday
guys
the
do.
13th one was great too.
Yeah,
I think is great.
I 100%. When we get to those reviews, they'll be interesting conversations. But then this remake came along, and everyone was... I think we were riding high, because that Friday the 13th was good, Rob Zombie's Halloween was good, so we were thinking, oh, New Nightmare, that's going to be great. And then I think the first kind of blow to everyone was Robert Englund's not returning. And that already set the bar pretty low, and then you actually watch it, and it just got lower and lower and lower.
Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley, I believe is his name, came in and did Freddy Krueger. And I don't think he did a bad job. I think he tried. You know, he's an Academy Award nominated actor for Watchmen. And I think he tried. That's the thing I could say. It's just, some things, like, you don't need to tell us every single thing. I think that was my biggest thing, is like, yeah, it was always hinted at that he was a child molester. And, you know, the child killer just seemed cooler. And now it's like, okay, he was a gardener at a preschool, and these were his kids, and you were his kids. And I was like... okay, I just don't like what they're going for here. I like it more when he's just murdering them, and especially since they were so young. Like, you know, they're always teenagers and everything. I get now he's going after them as teenagers, but it just didn't work for me. Actually, this movie just didn't work for me at all. I thought this movie was absolutely terrible. The CGI is awful. The acting was really, really, really bad. And you can tell that the acting was bad because they do a lot of jump cuts between each person delivering their lines. So it's like, okay, we're just going to take the best we can get from these people, and we'll just put it in because, my God, other than Jackie Earle Haley, everybody is just bad at acting in this movie. And it really hurts me to say that because I don't want to knock these people, but if I have to watch these people try and deliver lines again, you know, I'll probably throw myself off a cliff. And... I mean that. What do you think?
I'll let Dennis go.
Alright, yeah, so I echo that. And that's probably why we'll let Matt go last. I think you're a little different than us. But I think if this wasn't Nightmare, it would have been a good movie. Because, like you said, Jackie Earle Haley did really good. If he was a different character, in a different story, I think he would be a great villain in a horror movie. And it could have been pretty good. But because it was Nightmare, it had really, really a high bar to reach. And everything just failed to me, too. The acting, like you said, really feel bad because acting, I'm sure, is very difficult. But, God, it was terrible. The line delivery was horrible. Freddy was good. I don't like that they made him look different because his face was just a muddy mess. And they definitely dove way too deep into his backstory, like you said, where... he lived in the basement of the preschool or whatever. Like, who lets a gardener live in the preschool or in the basement? Like, that's weird. So all of that was just...
It is weird, but not unheard of.
Yeah. It's not unheard of? How many preschool gardeners do you know living in the basements of the...
I don't hang around preschools, but I know a mechanic that lives in a camper at the shop.
You really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
Right.
I've never heard of anyone living at their jobs.
Yeah,
unless they own the
it
place.
happens.
I guess, I mean, mechanic's a little bit more acceptable than a grown man living in the basement where, you know, 4-year-old, 5-year-old kids are...
Yeah, and also...
I agree. Yeah.
How much preschools really care about the gardening that much?
It was a different time. There's gardeners and stuff. Alright, so I mean... I don't disagree with what they're saying, but I also don't hate this movie. I don't think it was the worst piece of shit like they're saying. You know, I think Freddy's appearance I hated. I didn't like the voice. I know it's makeup and all that stuff, but just Robert Englund's got just a distinct shape to his face. Like, Freddy's face in this was round and flat. And Robert Englund it's like pointy. He's got the pointy chin, the pointy nose. You know, that alone was what bothered me. That was like the biggest thing I had with this was the way Freddy looked. I would have loved for Robert Englund to be in the movie. Obviously, it's nowhere near as good as the original or any of the originals Robert Englund in. But I still think it's a watchable movie. I don't think it's absolutely terrible. Am I going to watch it every year? No. But I'll come back to it every once in a while. You know, I don't think it's absolutely terrible. But again, you don't have to watch it. We still have the original. It doesn't affect the original. It's just more Freddy Krueger movie, you know. But it's just not Robert Englund. That's the worst part about it. But again, it's serviceable. I didn't hate it.
I guess if I had to say some good things about it, is like some of the shots were cool, like early in the diner. Like I like the one shot where they're transitioning and they have the lighting outside changing colors. I thought that was cool. It's just every time somebody spoke, it really hurt. And then especially the CGI, like they tried to redo scenes from the original.
They played with the story a little bit. They didn't do a faithful one for one. I can't really agree 100% with you guys just because I didn't hate it. You know, I didn't. At no point was I like, oh, I can't wait for this to be over. It was whatever.
No, I respect your opinion.
It's a middle of the road thing, you know. I think the other, like, Halloweens and the Friday the 13th are much better remakes, but that's also because those characters don't talk and they're in masks. So it doesn't need to be, you know. But that's my thoughts.
The CGI in that scene, like, you know, like we were just talking about, like the scene where, you know, he pushes in over the bed. Now it looks like a fish underwater where he's moving around the room.
Again, it's also the times. So go look at movies from the 60s and the 70s, and then like the blood and like Scanners when the head explodes, which is, it's pretty cool, but you could do way better with CGI and stuff now, you know, or even practical effects.
I think
to this point,
I thought the CGI made it worse.
Right, but I'm saying it was just the time. That was the time, the era the movie was made. So you can't fault it for that, I guess. But they could have gone practical effects but I don't know. I'm not trying to defend it, but it was.
No, you got to be the defender. I'm gonna shit on it.
I mean, if I have to find something positive about it, it's that it didn't run that long.
It was short.
Because I could not wait for this to be over.
95 minutes.
Yeah, 95 minutes was about 90 minutes too long. I think a 5-minute trailer would have been perfect, and we could have moved along and pretended that it never existed.
It's got a cool lenticular lens cover art, though. You see the little slash in there. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but I don't know. I don't hate that I have it on Blu-ray.
I guess I really don't want to watch it again.
I would watch it again.
So it's definitely if you're gonna pick and choose, I'd say choose the original.
100%. The original is leaps and bounds better.
Yeah.
But I'll probably watch this again in like 2 years or so.
I'll probably watch it again in 25 or 30 years, maybe.
If I watch it again in my lifetime, kill me. Because I really don't want to ever.
It's not that bad.
I don't really ever want to see it again. Like, I've always said that the worst. Because we're going to do a Nightmare video eventually about all of them, where we rank them and stuff. But I've always said that, you know, the original's the best, third's the second, and they're kind of eh. I enjoy 6 a lot. 2, I keep trying to go back to it, enjoy it because of like the deeper meaning to it, but I don't like it. So if I'm going to give a score to the first Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, that is a 10 out of 10 horror movie for me. Perfect score, perfect film. It's just, it's very good as far as a horror movie. I mean, I'm a little biased, like I said, it's the movie that got me into horror, so it's a 10 out of 10 film for me. And then if we're going to rate 2010's Nightmare on Elm Street for me, that is one of the worst films ever. I am going to give that a solid 1 out of 10.
Oh my goodness. Alright, so very opposite.
Yeah.
I agree, 10 out of 10 for the original. Absolutely perfect film. Love every second of it. And that it hasn't aged poorly. It's still fantastic to this day. Everything about it's awesome. 10 out of 10 for sure. The remake, I'll go with a 3 out of 10. It's not a dumpster fire, but it is certainly a dumpster.
It's better than Empty Man.
You're never going to let that go.
Never.
So what would you give the 1984 and the 2010?
That's definitely easily a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
The original, across the board here, that's iconic. You know, he's one of the kings of the 80s slashers. You can't say that's not one of the best movies ever. As far as the 2010 remake, I'm going to slide in a cool 4 out of 10. Maybe 4.5.
All right.
4.5 out of 10.
All right.
Because, again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but if I'm going to go watch a Nightmare, that's going to be one of the last choices. But still, on the bigger picture, I don't think it was absolutely terrible. My biggest thing was just Robert Englund not being in it. If he was in it, he probably would have escalated it way higher. But who knows? Who's to say? We never got that movie. This is what we got. And I'm going to say 4 out of 10.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, well, you know what? Maybe one day they will take another stab at this, and hopefully we get a better remake where they've learned their lesson. I don't think they did, but I hope they did. So
you want another remake?
I would love another remake. I have no problem with them remaking movies as long as they do it well and it's, it deserves the remake. Like I said, my thing with remakes is I don't mind them making them. It's just because the original's always there. Mm-hmm. They can't remove the original.
Right.
But if they're going to do it, at least try and do something different and try and do good. Don't just do a cash grab remake. I really don't need that. Like, they keep trying with Texas Chainsaw. And,
oh, God.
And they're pretty good. But, like, it's another video for another day.
The Netflix one was pretty good.
I like the Netflix one.
You didn't like it? Seriously?
That's all. So thank you.
All right, we'll talk about that on another video because we got to get out of here on this one. All right, guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe and tell all your friends.
That bus scene was pretty cool.
Bus scene was cool.